What is up, people? Welcome back to Blue Chip Prospect. Today we are talking Ivan Demidov. I've been waiting a little while to make this video because I wanted to wait for Demidov to play at least half of the season in the KHL to have a decent idea of where things are trending. But when he reached half of the season, he was in the middle of a 10 or 11 game slump where he wasn't playing much but also wasn't doing much either. So I wanted to take the time and wait to see if he was going to get back on track or not. And boy, oh boy, he did not disappoint. When somehow all of Chicago, Anaheim, and Columbus passed on Demidov to take Levshunov, Seneca, and Lindstrom respectively, the Habs rebuild took a new direction. As far as I can remember, the Canadiens did not have a prospect of Demidov's caliber outside of Carey Price since the last time they've won the Cup. Maybe I'm forgetting someone, but I highly doubt it. I know I was excited when we got Galchenyuk, same when we drafted Sergachev. I know I was jumping uncontrollably on my couch when we drafted Caulfield, and also thought we committed a highway robbery when we drafted Hudson in the second round, but none of them were on the same level as Ivan Demidov. We can now debate that Hudson might be on the same tier as Demidov, but at the time of the draft, Hudson and Caulfield represented highly skilled players with high ceilings, but they also represented somewhat of a risk. And while Galchenyuk and Sergachev were the right pick at their position at the time, they never had the same pedigree or the same status as Ivan Demidov. Demidov was the real game changer, the player the Habs absolutely needed to shift this rebuild into players. Transitioning from the MHL to the KHL isn't easy, and finding ways to be consistent defensively as well as offensively in a much faster and a much more organized league playing against men is usually a much slower process. A lot of players, or maybe not a lot because there's not that many players drafted out of the MHL, but most players with a high level of hockey sense like Demidov, who were scoring well above a point per game in the MHL in their draft year, had a hard time adjusting and finding ways to be consistently productive in the KHL in their draft plus one season. Players like Kucherov or Danila Yurov comes to mind. Even others who were more physically equipped for the KHL like Yegor Surin or Podkolzin, Daniel Booth, they didn't adapt so well, and they all encountered the same roadblock, which I'm sure every Habs fan are aware of by now. They all played under 10 minutes of ice time per game with barely any power play time, which makes it so hard for young players to get into the game with sparse 30-second shift here and there, and sometimes even getting benched for the whole period. Demidov luckily is getting a little more ice time with an average of 13 minutes per game, including about a minute of power play time per game, but only because his ice time have been ramping up recently. When I recorded this the first time a couple weeks ago, his ice time was around 11 minutes and 40 seconds of power play time. So if we look at what he's been doing stats-wise, he's first in the KHL history with 0.86 points per game. Mishkov, who's had significantly more opportunity and ice time with Sochi last season, is second with 0.85, so it's a pretty tight race. But just to compare, Mishkov had 17 minutes of ice time and 3 minutes of power play time, so that's a huge difference. So if we convert those per game stats into per 60 minutes of ice time stat, just to level the playing field a little bit, then Demidov is basically a monster. Right now, Demidov is playing at a 3.79 points per 60 minutes of ice time pace. The stat is not actually provided by the KHL, but it looks to me, after my own calculation, like he's about second or third or something around that. On the other hand, Mishkov had a 2.98 per 60, so it's really not that close. But honestly, what's even more important than his points per 60 numbers and all those stats here is how Demidov has adapted to the KHL. And while it has not been perfect, it's been extremely positive with a major shift in his game style. Everyone who has seen the highlights know what Demidov is all about. He has some of the best handling skills we've seen in a long time, and he can navigate through layers of players at full speed like it's basically nothing. So while this is really good and can be effective on the rush in the NHL or to cut to the inside or something like that, this is not how pro hockey is played at any level. Not in the KHL, not in the SHL or Liga, and certainly not in the NHL. Individualistic plays are not all that common. They happen and they end up on TSN highlights of the week, but most of the offense in the NHL is created through puck movement and team play. It's one of the reasons why I always preferred Mishkov to Demidov, is that Mishkov always used his line mates to move the play up the ice and closer to the net. He heavily relied on passing schemes and give and goes to move the puck and create space and opportunities. Demidov was always a bit more individualistic, keeping the puck and moving around the offensive zone until he found or created an opening or just straight up dangled himself to the net. Obviously, this is not a all or nothing situation. There's plenty of time where Demidov used his teammate to move the puck or quickly give it away to a teammate to reposition himself in a pocket of free space, but overall, he was always more reliant on his handling skills to get through a team in the MHL, which can be explained by the level of hockey, which was just way too low for where Demidov's development was. This has been toned down significantly in the KHL. He now has less space to work with and plays against much better players in a more organized system, and he instantly understood that making quick decisions with the puck and moving it quickly to a teammate was the way to go. What really separates him from most other players who can also move the puck quickly is his ability to open space and open lanes for a better play compared to every other players that I've watched. He has that special ability to fake one side and go the other. He doesn't need to hold onto the puck to do it and to fake defenders. Sometimes it's just so quick that the misdirection itself is basically integrated into his puck reception. He will just receive the pass on the wall, fake a pass to the blue line, instantly go to his backhand or spin the other way and send an uncontested pass to the high slot, or integrate some kind of a toe drag into his puck reception to instantly have an open lane for a high danger chance. I remember thinking Leo Carson was the king of creating space for his line mates using clever plays and manipulation on defenders, but Demidov is like Carson on steroids when it comes to creating space. He's just really something special. It's really going to be something to watch both Demidov and Hudson on the same team. While they don't apply deception the same way, they both will be some of the most deceptive players in the entire NHL. I mean, Hudson is already on his way there, and Demidov is sending players on a hike with just one move in the KHL right now, so it's looking pretty good. Defensively, it's still a work in progress, but most of the time he's there working, trying to get the puck back. He will sometimes get lost when the other team cycles the puck and rotates player, but I can't really remember too many times where I thought he made such a big mistake that the goal against or the high danger chance against was directly linked to him. I'm sure it does happen sometime, but you don't watch Demidov and think to yourself that he's the stereotypical Russian player with skills but no defense and no compete. It's just not the case. But same as last year, which was less obvious in the MHL, most of his issues come from the lack of explosion in his skating. He's a dynamic skater with speed through the neutral zone and edge work for days, but his burst speed, or what is often referred to as a two-step or three-step acceleration, is just not ideal. He will work his butt off to get to the puck first on short races, but he will lose his fair share of 50-50 races for a clear in the defensive zone or on the cycle. It's not the end of the world when you have so much to work with, but it's definitely something to keep working at. If it's an apparent weakness in the KHL, it will be even more obvious in the NHL and will have an impact on his play away from the puck. And talking about play away from the puck, his reading of space and timing in the offensive zone is just impeccable. As good as it gets, in my opinion. He's not only good at managing his speed and timing to get into pockets of space or to keep lanes open between him and the puck carrier, he's just constantly open. Whether it's in close support for line mates, under pressure, or across the ice, he finds ways to be open all the time in the back of defenders. And whatever he was doing at an elite level last season in the MHL, like transitioning the puck or getting looks from the middle third of the ice or keeping the puck on his stick while skating through the defense to finish plays at the net, he still does at an elite level, even maybe a special level. I was wondering how his burning desire to work the middle third of the ice would translate against KHL competition, and it hasn't changed whatsoever. Does he dangle himself through three players into the slot on every entries like he was doing last season? No, and that's okay because it doesn't work too much in the NHL anyway, but he finds other ways like distributing puck to quickly reposition himself around the net, or leave the puck to a player on the wall on the entry and wait for him to pass it down low for Demidov to dive into the slot with great timing. But he also still cut to the inside Demidov style, leaving the defender in the dust from time to time, or maybe more than time to time, but it's still less than before. He just looks like he has a million different schemes in his head on how to get to the inside or how to get the puck there to an open player. He's not a one-man army anymore. He involves his line mates and makes around himself better. But the most impressive thing for me is how everything comes together for him. The combination of his insane puck skills with his elite hockey sense, his ability to read the game and anticipate player movement, fake one-way freeze players with his skating and body movement and hands, and dish the puck out with the same level of accuracy as his handling, or even catch a contested puck in the middle of the ice and shoot it with an amazingly quick release. He's just Always in movement, always repositioning, moving from open to support to backdoor play at the net. He's just constantly buzzing out there. He's impossible to cover, and I'm fairly certain it's going to stay that way even in the NHL. So, not that I wasn't convinced he was a star in the making, but teammates' involvement and 3-steps acceleration are things that I wanted to see improvements on, and he has delivered in every way. There's still work to do on the quickness, but the rest is just superstar level. Even in his 10-game slump, he still looked good and was creating all kinds of chances. It didn't click, and maybe he tried to do a little bit too much sometimes, coming back to his MHL habits and surely showing some frustration on the ice, but it's not like he wasn't creating A grades, open look in the slot for himself and line mates. This part of the game just never changes. I know he himself said that he prefers to play center as he feels more involved in the game and feels like he has better vision from the center position, but he hasn't played meaningful minutes at center in forever. Couple games in the playoff last year and some exhibition game here and there, so it's hard to see it happening, but I wouldn't put anything past him. If there's one person or one player who can do it, it's going to be him. But now, imagine Demidov down the middle with Laine on his wing, or maybe Dak or Slavkovsky on the other side. It sounds pretty sweet to me, and just like Lane Hudson was a major talent injection on the back end this year and completely changed the outlook of the Habs defense, I expect the same thing for Demidov next year, a major injection of talent and creativity into the forward group and completely different outlook for the top 6. So after a little more, or maybe a lot more than half a season after the Habs selected him, I still feel like every team before us, apart from San Jose, made a huge mistake by passing on him. I think Levshunov will be a good player, but I personally had him at 7, and I don't think he's done anything to show that he should have been taken before Demidov. I love Seneca, and the guy almost doubled his production from last year. He's huge, he has skills through the roof, he's fast, but I don't think he's special. He's more like a Matt Boldy to me, which is a terrific player, but again, not the same level of player. And Caden Lindstrom hasn't played in a year outside of a couple games in the playoff and underwent a microdiscectomy in November. So who knows if he'll even play this season. So if I took what I know now half a season later and compared Demidov to players from next year's draft, Demidov would be fighting with Schaefer for first overall in the 2025 draft. I'm not sure there's a forward with the same type as ceiling as Demidov in this draft, or actually I'm pretty convinced there's not, but nothing is impossible. So in the end, so far, Demidov has been everything everyone wanted and more. The production in the KHL is off the chart. He has adapted his game to a pro style while keeping his special Demidov touch, and he went through some adversity in the season and got through it a better player. In my opinion, we have a special one, a franchise player that will carry this team, the hardest piece to acquire on a rebuilding team. I just can't wait to see him put the Bleu Blanc Rouge next season and help bring this team to another level. Thanks for watching. Peace.